Eric is the epitome of laziness. Quote. And this was my math teacher. So hearing that really like messed with me, dude.
Now, if you feel some way about yourself and you truly believe that about yourself, it's going to be really hard to get yourself on a different track.
The quote-unquote plague spread to roughly 400 people who danced uncontrollably to the point of exhaustion, heart attack, or stroke.
I'm vibing right now. I need to get this out of me.
And I feel like you went out there and then she just started like dancing and pointing at people, you know, to get them to join in. Let's jump right in, Andy. This is a question that I thought about today. I didn't write down, but I want to ask you about it. Are there any things that
I want to stay away from?
No. Any things that you like knowledge that you didn't have that you really should have had until like later on in life that you kind of learned about a thing? And for me, like, I'll tell you mine in just a second, but I associate it with my ADHD and just not like being present all the time during certain events in school. And as a result, I never learned like kind of a core thing. And then I didn't like figure that out until later in life.
Okay.
Can you think of anything like that in your life? I can give you a minute to think about it. I'll tell you mine. Mine's embarrassing.
Bro, like I took algebra like 1, 2, and 3, which there's algebra 3. That's crazy. I think algebra 3 was just algebra 2.
Is algebra, like the number? Do those numbers actually mean something? Like is it just like algebra, more advanced algebra, or is it like a consistent, like if you go from school to school, algebra 2 is the same thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, me either.
But what I do know is that if you put algebra in front of me, even though I took it for however many years, nothing.
You'd be like,
I bet you though, dude.
It'd be like if someone gave you a non-alcoholic beer that wasn't an athletic, right? You'd be like, what the? I don't want this. I don't know what this is. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But I think now, like if you put it in front of me, if I really hit the books, you know,
you could get there.
Rush algebra, dude. Like algebra wouldn't stand a chance.
Yeah, I believe that 100%. So I feel like that's a probably a pretty relatable one that a lot of people.
Also, Spanish.
Spanish. I just didn't care when I was in high school. I didn't care to learn.
Isn't that what we're talking about?
Spanish?
You know? Well, I think what you're saying is like
not caring.
Some folks go to school and they do it like you do your job. Like you don't want to do something and that's fine. But
you do it anyway.
You cannot want to do something and do it.
Yeah.
Well, whereas some people can. That's what I'm saying, right? So that's not what happens.
No. Yeah. All right, let me tell you mine, because this is and when I tell you when I learned it, you'll be shocked. Mine was the months of the year: January, February, March, April, May. I can get through them all now. I'll be a little slow going through it. It wasn't until I graduated college, dude, and got into the professional world that I had to like learn the months of the year. All the months of the year consecutively. I didn't know what order they went in. I could name them all. I didn't know what number was what all the way till after college, dude. I swear to God. And it wasn't until I was like at work and I had to figure this out that I just got like a sheet of paper, wrote down the months, and then it took me like 2 days to memorize it. But I had gone through my entire life up to that point not knowing the months and the order of the months. And it always with me. There were so many little events that were kind of like embarrassing because I would fumble over it. I don't think anyone realized that I didn't know the months because no one would think that. They would just think like I'm kind of stumbling over it for different reasons. But isn't that crazy?
That is insane.
And the craziest part of that, when I reflect back on it, is how fast I learned the months once I like really just decided to do it. And it had been a nuisance in my life for so long.
How old are we talking? Like 23?
Probably like 20, 23, 24, probably around there. Yeah. Because I had graduated and I was in like the professional, I had entered into the workforce.
I know you didn't know, like you didn't know, like you knew all the names of the months, though. You
Yeah.
just didn't know what order they went in.
Yeah, if someone was like, "Oh, it's like in October," well, that's my birthday month, but I wouldn't really know where that was relative to the month we were in currently, how far away it was. It was sort of just like vague in my mind.
I mean, I guess if you say like how many, if someone was like, how many months away is February from right now? I'd be like,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I don't know. And then I'd have to like May, June, July, August,
yeah, yeah.
September. You know, like count on your fingers.
I, I just looked over and I see a 5'8", so I'd be like, okay, 5'8", and then like to get to the two, I could do that math. I wouldn't have been able to do that. I
Right.
would have had to like look at a
A
calendar and like
calendar.
put through. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, dude. It's kind of like not knowing, like going that far in life and not knowing your left and your right. That's kind of what I like equate it to. Like such a normal thing that I
Dude,
just
so many
just lose.
people struggle with left and right.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I did. I also did when I learned that when I was younger, but I struggled with it for a while. And what, yeah, I was at a friend's house, and my friend's mom had said something, and I didn't like get the left and the right, and she put an R on my right hand and an L on my left hand, and on my right foot and left foot, and I just kept looking at it, and that was the thing that kind of got me to figure it out.
ah, yeah, that's crazy, dude. Not knowing the months.
Yeah, dude. I like seriously my whole life, and it was yeah, just to like really drive that part home. Like it was so easy to learn. I just had never I'd taken the time to do it,
Yeah.
and I feel like that there's so many things like that in the life of an ADHDer where it's just like it's just not figuring out how to prioritize things. It's like
Yeah.
I could have learned the months at any time, but I'm like, oh, but I can do this instead, and even after it like caused some
Mhm.
sort of embarrassing situation, I still didn't learn it until I really felt like I had to. Otherwise, I was gonna get like exposed and fired at work.
Wow.
Yeah, man, crazy,
I
right?
hope I don't get exposed and fired at work for not knowing algebra.
You would or would not?
I hope I don't. I
No,
don't
dude,
know if I will. Maybe I
you
will.
don't like because that's not a. I mean, I was doing customer service, and like you have to know,
The
like it's
months.
just some yeah, you got to know the months because that's
Yeah.
relevant. But like algebra, I don't know. I mean, you probably do algebra. You just don't really see it as algebra because it's just like swapping variables for numbers, and I'm sure you do it in some capacity.
That's the thing is I think that unless nothing really stuck with me unless I could visualize it. Like statistics I could visualize because it could be a population, it could be a group of things.
Yeah.
I guess with algebra, if things were disappearing and reappearing in different places, maybe you could visualize it that way.
Hmm.
But yeah, never really. I just kind of coasted through algebra. I
Yeah.
remember one time I was like, maybe I'll take pre-calculus, and like they were like, yeah, sure, try that, and I was like, all right, and then like, dude, it was a disaster. Like
Yeah.
I went right to algebra 3. They were like
Yeah.
remedial math for you, sir. And
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
because it's one of
okay,
those things like math is just it's stacked with the exception of like statistics, geometry a
geometry.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are kind of
fine with
like in
that.
there, but like calculus to not really have a grasp on algebra, there's no way you're going to be doing calculus.
Same with like biology. I crushed biology. I crushed
Yeah,
marine biology. Like
yeah,
crushed those things. But this or exercise kinesiology, like anatomy, physiology. But once you put me in physics, or you put me in what's the other one? Chemistry.
yeah.
I was out, dude. I was like,
Chemistry is that one that was hard for me.
yeah,
Chemistry is like that was and I think also a big part of it is just like it was a lot of memorization and not a lot of caring. So like getting through chemistry in college is like pulling teeth because I just didn't care. I mean that was truly like at least for me with math. Like first off, I enjoyed the problem solving aspect of it, so that helped. And then also is like I could see how math is relevant in other areas, like whatever I want to do, I could get the relevance. But like chemistry, I just could not see how chemistry was going to be
Dude,
useful for me in my life. So I could not invest myself in it to actually like learn the stuff.
we should look back at our like high school transcripts and see what classes you and I were in together. Because I know that we were in algebra together,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to like remember which other ones, we were in
We
there
weren't in a
together.
lot. We were in like we weren't in a lot together. We were in like
Really?
different schools within the same school. Yeah. I had like the people that I had similar classes with. You were one of them.
Really?
Which yeah, man. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why it worked out like that.
I think I was in like the dum dum grouping.
Was there a
Remember
dumb
how
dumb
there was like
grouping?
red, white,
But
and blue? Remember how there was red, white, and blue?
oh.
Like if you're in red group, you're here. I think I was in like the straight up dum dum group, and
Oh.
I had to crawl my way out of the dum dum group.
I did not know there was a dum dum group. I didn't know they tiered it.
Yeah, and it was very apparent to me because I remember being like, okay, like if you're I remember like we had to pick our classes or something,
Hmm.
and it was like, all right, everybody in the red group, come over here, and like we're all gonna try and figure this out together. And then it was like the blue group, and I was like, I remember just being like, oh, Ryan's going with that blue group, like that's not my group.
Oh
And then I
shit.
remember like being like, oh, who was it? It was like me and like some guys that you would be like, you if I said their names, you would be like, oh, you were in the group with them.
Yeah. No, I was never in. I don't think I was ever in classes with Ryan either.
Yeah, I
So
was
I must have
towards
not
the
been.
end.
I must have not been in the top tier then.
I was in the like at the end of my high school career, junior
Yeah,
senior year. That was when I was
you
able
got there. You clawed your
to
way up.
get out of that. But yeah, like middle school really put me in this crew.
So you're saying that in middle school you got like a designate, like they put a sticker on the back of your head that you couldn't see. When you
Yeah,
got to high school, they're like, "All right, this guy's going in this group."
dude, which is very funny because there are like so many studies that show like kiddos, adults, whoever, once designated an identity by others,
Yeah,
they conform to that
yeah,
identity.
yeah,
There's so many studies that are like,
yeah,
if you think you're a dum dum, you're gonna just be a dum dum,
yeah.
like until you have confidence or whatever. And like, I mean, there's different. Obviously, that's not the end all be all. Like, there's. I want to maybe cut out this part, but
Well,
not everybody like
of
has
course,
that privilege,
of
right?
course,
But
of course.
for the most part, yeah, like what's a lot of science has shown is that if you feel some way about yourself and you truly believe that about yourself, it's going to be really hard to get yourself on a different track.
Of course.
So
Let me ask you, as put that in the context of ADHD for me, for yourself. Like, do you think because you were diagnosed young like me, right?
yeah, and I also I want to say like you and I are like we're successful people,
Yeah,
but we needed to instill a confidence in ourselves at some point in our lives because it was probably a little bit
oh,
difficult in certain moments.
absolutely. I'll say that for myself. Like, I was always like I didn't have a lot of self confidence coming up because of probably from all the noise. I had teachers who were, oh, dude, when I was in a freshman math, it was algebra as a freshman in junior high. I was like in class, and I wasn't doing very good in the class, and I was friends with a kid whose was the son, no, a friend of a friend who was the son of my math teacher, and my friend was over at this other kid's house, and the mom was there, and then I got brought up for some reason, and the mom said that Eric is the epitome of laziness. Quote. And this was my math teacher. So hearing that really like messed with me, dude. Like here, I don't know, just something about hearing that from a teacher. And I've always been kind of like weird
Hard.
about like authority figures, like I don't know. Um, and then like yeah, that definitely like it became sort of a self fulfilling thing. Hearing that, and I, but so I had that aspect of it, and like I was called lazy a lot, like coming up,
Mhm.
and but my parents, my mom in particular, was always really big about telling me how smart I was. So I didn't think I was stupid. I thought that, but I did think that there was something wrong, and I thought that I was really lazy. And
And
that was
she's
a
a
hard.
scientist.
And she's a scientist.
So if she's telling you you're smart, she's got to have some evidence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I believed her. And unfortunately, because I think if I didn't have my mom feeding me that, I could have easily just thought that I was not smart. So then, feeling like I'm lazy, feeling like I'm not smart,
Sure.
that is just a recipe to to go down a difficult path. And it's not to say that if that's you, you can't make a hard left turn, but it's much more difficult to do that. I want to hear your story because it sounds like you were categorized, but then you kind of like figured it out. Like what got you to change course in high school?
Well, it was a lot of that same sort of thing, but certain teachers like really showed me that I could do things, well.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it like my number one goal is like go to college
Yeah.
right after. And that was like if I did that, I was like I was good, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was like I could always kind of like I don't know if you used to do this, but like you would kind of like be like, okay, I'm in this class, I've got this grade. If I can nail this on a midterm or a final, like I'll get a B and like I'm good.
Hmm.
Like I could like so like I used to do a lot of that, like
I see. Yeah.
calculating, like how
Yeah.
to calculate through my
Yeah.
grades.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it was a lot of like trying to think of how this happened, but a lot of putting in the bare minimum on courses I didn't really care about,
Yeah.
and then like really high stress moments of having to like nail the final to get myself through, which was like,
Yeah.
in my opinion, finals were so helpful for me
Oh,
because
really?
of like under that high stress, under that like close deadline, like
Yeah.
I could like crush a final after getting like a D in the course and it would get me like a C and I would just be
Yeah.
like, all right, great. Like don't ever have to
Boom,
do
did it.
physics again,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, but so, and then those instances are what sort of like my teachers would be like,
See, you can do this. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and my mom, yeah, like she was like, she would be like, if you just, she used to say like, put the pedal to the metal, like you would be doing great. And
Yeah.
I remember being like, yeah, but I just want to have a blast with my friends and like
Yeah. Yeah.
play sports and like do whatever.
Mhm.
And I had a blast. I had
Yeah.
one of the best high school experiences I think you could have.
You did?
I personally, I loved it. I think it was fantastic. I had such fun and
Yeah.
like
Dude, well, I was thinking about, were you
our
the
crew
prom?
was like,
Were you the prom king?
no,
You weren't?
I dated the prom queen though.
Doesn't that make you the prom king?
No, you have to be voted the prom king.
That's kind of. Oh, you, you didn't
That's
get
so
like the automatic, like the.
No, because that was like that upper, like they were in the blue group or whatever. Like all
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
folks were like the golden poster children for, which is funny because yeah, there was that like I was who I was.
That's
But
funny.
remember we had a fun time though, like, and then
Yeah.
that was the other cool thing. Like we had all these different groups,
Yeah.
and we like bop along like everybody else's
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
Anyways, that gave like socially, I felt very confident. I think, but yeah, there was. I think we talked about this last time. There are definitely moments that you were like, "Wow, I wish that didn't happen. I wish I could
Oh.
take that one back."
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Lots of those. How were you in college? Same thing in college? Like, were you disaster? Yeah, I was
So
too.
many moments
a
where I was
disaster in
like,
college.
"I'm not going to be able to come back here." So many
Yeah.
moments. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I like for me, I just got like for whatever reason. When I came to high school, I moved 2 days before, moved from California to the state that we went to high school. I'll keep it vague, and then went to high school. So I was kind of forced to make friends and all that, and it was really good for me socially. Even though I was still kind of figuring out who I was, and my friend groups changed a lot in high school, but then so anyway, good for me socially, and then I burped. Man, these really hit you right.
They feel good going in. They feel good coming out.
That's right. And then in college, I just regressed like crazy, dude. And like social, I had the worst social anxiety of my entire life in college.
Really?
Yeah, dude, like brutal. And I really don't know where it came from, like why it happened. But yeah, so it really kind of like hindered my college experience just because I was so socially uncomfortable. And then it took graduating and then like driving out to California and then sort of redoing that process that I had when I first moved to the state where I went to high school, where I didn't know anybody and I had to kind of start from the ground floor and build out those social skills again I was kind of comfortable again. But yeah, college was just a weird, dark period of my life.
That was when you moved back out to California. That was when you realized, like, man, I really need to like stop wearing these snap-up basketball pants.
Let's see. No, I think in college I figured out that the snap up basketball pants weren't the right move.
Okay.
I think maybe was I snap up all throughout high school?
Clean through, bro.
Yeah, clean through. Yeah. And now I'm at a point where I want to I want to go back to those.
I think at this point you could, and like people would be like, wow, where do I get me a pair of and one basketball snap
Those
up the side
come
pants?
clean off at the end of the day. You don't even have to bend down. You just boom, clean. And then you got to button them back up, or you don't, and that's it. One and done.
I also remember that like the soles of your shoes would just be like completely coming off.
Oh yeah. It is another thing. I was not like my family when I was in high school was like financially like comfortable. There were multiple people who like called me like white trash and like poor just because of because I just didn't care enough about how I dressed, or not enough. I just didn't care, you know? And I just like the image that I gave off was like can't afford clothes
It's
and
so
shoes and
funny, dude.
yeah,
Because
dude.
I knew, like, I would go to your house and it'd be like, holy smokes, look at this. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, you'd be like, just like, it would be like -9 degrees, and you'd be wearing like a Denali North Face zip up the front fleece like in a basketball pants.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it
Like,
was
what?
yeah. My parents always like they made an effort to like they to make sure that I didn't kind of like present as like privileged, but I think they took it a little too far, you know?
Like, I'm sure that
Um,
I'm so surprised there wasn't like a DCF or
but anyway, I figured it out.
Oh,
And yeah,
that's funny.
yeah. Anyway, we haven't even gotten any of the real questions here. Let me ask you about the disappearance of the Mary Celeste, because I wanted to talk
Dude,
about this one because I know you know about this one. So
I do, and I know a couple of theories about it.
okay,
Like,
let's jump
like,
right in. Tell me the theories.
well,
Hmm.
one theory is that
Wait. Let's
wait,
talk
set
about
the
what it is
tone,
first.
dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Set the
Okay.
tone.
Okay. So, as I understand it, let's see. I got the date. All right. So in 1872, there was a ship. It was a ship full of goods that was found floating in what I believe is the ocean or a
Hmm.
river, most likely an ocean, and it was completely devoid of a crew.
Right.
Devoid of a crew. However, everything on the ship was still there, which rules out the
Right.
possibility of pirates coming by and taking care of everybody on the ship, stealing stuff. And it's been a mystery for over 200 years.
All right.
Not
Now,
200 years. Wait, no, over 100 years.
definitely over 100. You said 15 what?
1872.
Oh, sorry. I got the dancing plague mixed up. Okay. 1872, you said.
Yeah.
Over 100 years. So, say this. So, were there any was there any debris on
No,
the ship?
no debris.
And all the goods were intact, and there was not a single
Yeah.
body found.
So they discovered 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol on the ship. So that was why they ruled out pirates coming in and stealing goods. There was the one thing missing from the ship was the what do you call it? The lifeboat. The lifeboat was gone. Never found the crew, right? But everything on the ship was intact. Everything was orderly, in fact. So
Really?
I've got a theory, but I want to hear your theory.
Okay.
Oh, and the final, I got another bullet here. The final entry in the logbook was dated 10 days before they had found the ship with no crew on it. So it had been floating around. In theory, it had been floating around 10 days with no crew before they found it.
Okay. Here's one possible thing that might have happened.
Yeah.
So, let's set the scene here.
Okay.
Mary Celeste. Yeah.
Is Mary Celeste a person or a boat? Let's start.
Don't let me lose it.
Okay. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay. The Mary Celeste is cruising coastal, having a time, cruising around. The crew is like, dude, we've got all this booze. We're going to go to port and we're going to sell it and we're going to make a killing.
Yeah.
Okay. And at some point, they had to go to sleep. And I know that that crews do like night watch or whatever they call it, where they take watches and they keep sailing throughout the night. But this night in particular, I think they decided, like, you know what, guys, like, not tonight. We're
tired.
We're gonna drop the anchor and we're gonna take a nap, or we're gonna sleep for the night.
Yeah.
Now where were they? Where was the ship found?
No one knows.
How did they find
found drifting in the Atlantic.
Where in the Atlantic?
Keep going. Let me.
Okay, so they're sailing around. They're like, okay, that looks like a good spot, and they see like a little island, right? And they pull up into a little cove in an island. It's very comfortable for them. They're sheltered and such. And one of the guys is like, hey, like, mind if I take the lifeboat and just like go check out that island over there? And the captain's like, sure, like, you might as well. Like, maybe there's stuff there that we might be finding useful. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And so, like, him and another couple guys go down. And anyways, they're down there for a little while.
I like this captain. He seems like kind of a chill dude. Like, yeah.
Like, dude, he's got all the booze. Like, he's going to be rich in like a couple days or whatever when they get to, like, Boston.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, sure, dude, have a blast. And like a couple of dudes go down there, and then like one of them goes missing, right? And like, so they're like, oh shoot, like Chet, he's gone. Like, where'd he go? Like, nobody knows. And man, we got to get a search party or whatever. And so like,
yeah, dude, we love Chet. We got Chet's like he's our favorite sailor.
So Chet's homies are like, all right, we'll get back in the lifeboat, head back to the boat, the big ship. And they'll like recruit a couple more folks and like say like, all right, we got to find Chet because he's important. He's a navigator.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, got to have him, right?
Yeah.
Another guy.
I mean, back then, what are you going to do without a navigator?
It's just this back and forth to the point where there's just one dude left.
They keep losing a dude.
Yeah, dude.
Or they're losing a dude.
And he can't get back home. He's lost.
So this one guy just kept losing. And then
there's just one guy left.
Damn. So it's just a really irresponsible guy.
That one guy is just like.
By the way, it was found between the Azores Islands and the coast of Portugal, and the often cited specific location was roughly 400 miles east of Azores, Azores. So that sounds like
could
it's
have been
pretty
in the
far
Azores.
Azores? Is that how you say it?
Azores are beautiful.
Oh, but 400 miles. If you're in a boat, 400 miles. That doesn't seem like a dinghy trip.
Well. You said that they were. The boat was found between the Azores and Portugal.
Yeah.
So like 10 days before, they could have been 400 miles towards the Azores, and that could have been the island where they're like, you know what? let's get off here, have a party, and then everybody died.
So, does that mean that the skeletons are likely somewhere in the Azores?
The Azores?
Yeah,
So that's a highly populated island. But they didn't see them there at the Azores?
they did not see them.
I don't know, did they?
No,
Does anybody know
no one
if
knows
they were at the Azores? Okay.
because we reached out to a crew from the Azores, but they said it was a really long time ago. Yeah, we tried doing some investigative journalism, but it was a little too long ago for them to have much detail for it to be useful. So okay, so that's a good theory. I like the theory of the one guy just getting lost over and over again until the whole crew was missing. I don't know how big the crew was.
Because, dude, imagine this though. Like, have you ever played that game Sardines?
No.
Okay, so the idea with Sardines, like, everybody hides.
Okay.
Or no, one person hides. And when someone finds the person, they have to hide with the person. Now, all the way until everybody is with the person and there's only one person left looking for the group of people, right? Yeah. Now, this guy could have been, like, out there.
Yeah.
And someone else, one of his buddies, could have been like, yo, hey, chat, like, everybody's looking for you. And he was like, yo, dude, come here. Like, check this thing out, bro. Like, I'm never leaving here. And then Chet's friend was Jerry was like, I'm never leaving either. And then Billy came by and Billy was like, Chet, what was the other guy's name?
Billy?
Chet. Yeah, Billy came by and Chet and whatever the other guy's name was are both with Billy. This cool thing that they found. And like literally it's just like Sardines. Like everybody just came through and then they were like, you know what? We're never leaving. Screw that boat.
The Azores must have been amazing for them, every one of them, to give up on the 1,700 barrels of money that they were going to get.
They could have found like, I don't know. What would make you be like, dude, also, a lot of those sailors, they made like a nickel. They'll be out there for like 4 years and they'll make a nickel.
Yeah. What about the captain? I guess he was just like, well, I don't have a crew. I mean, I don't have a crew, so that sucks. But, all right, I guess I'm living in the Azores. This really, more than anything, makes me want to visit the Azores.
Oh, dude, I've heard it's incredible in the Azores.
So,
actually, you know what? A lot of people from the town here, their families from the Azores.
Oh, that's right, because there's a lot of Portuguese. Mm-hmm. The alcohol theory. Let me read this theory to you. Okay, a leading modern theory suggests a small leak of alcohol fumes caused a flash fire. Are you familiar with flash fires?
I've heard of this theory.
Or fear of explosion. So that's cause a flash fire or fear of explosion. Is it one or the other? Is that the same thing? Prompting Captain Briggs, which is a great captain name, to temporarily evacuate the crew, only for the tow line to snap. I don't know what that means either. What does the tow line snapping mean? Like the boat was connected to the dinghy was connected to the boat and the line snapped and they floated away?
Yeah. I mean, whatever they were like, I guess whatever, if they were anchored and they took the thing and like it floated away. However, the maybe the issue with that theory is that there would be a crew of folks looking for their ship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, you seen a ship around here? Like it was like this big, had a bunch of alcohol on it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. So this might be the first mystery. No. Let me take that back. We solved this mystery with I think you solved it.
That's been my theory forever.
Have you submitted it anywhere?
No.
We gotta get the Wikipedia updated with that information.
The Sardines theory?
The Sardines theory. And I can't believe I didn't play that as a kid. What the...
Oh, such a blast, dude.
I had friends, dude. What... I didn't have good enough friends, I guess. All right. Let's talk about the dancing plague of 1518. Okay.
Okay. Please.
You were not familiar with this one, were you?
No. I'm so excited about it.
Let me tell you about one of
because that seems like something I would be into.
Yeah, and it will be. Okay. All right. So in 1518. All right, close your eyes. Try to take yourself there. 1518. Your house had just been built.
For me.
Okay.
That's the scene.
Yeah. And where were we? We don't know where we were, but we were we were in Strasbourg. Okay.
Germany?
That sounds like it would be in Germany. Strasbourg, that sounds German.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna say it was in Germany. And then okay, a woman walks out of her house
Okay.
right onto a cobblestone road, and she starts dancing. And kind of like she's dancing, but sort of like twitchy moments, you know. So like, think about like Elaine. Do you ever see
Wait.
that episode of?
Is there a written account of this? Like describing it?
I don't know if there's a written account,
Oh, okay. Never mind. It's okay.
but keep asking me these questions because you know what? There was absolutely a written account of it, but it was lost to time.
Okay.
The written account was.
It was written in German, so we don't know how to say what they wrote.
We couldn't translate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we struggled to translate it. All right, so one woman, her name, we have her name, believe it or not,
Mary Celeste.
Fra Trophay. Fra, Frau, Fra Trophay. Troffea. Okay, was her name. Walks out of her house onto the street and begins dancing. And she's dancing, she dances fervently for how long? Nearly a week. Okay? She does stop only to rest. And it's not clear here if she goes in her house to rest. I'm assuming she just lays down in the street, takes rests, gets back up, and continues dancing. But doesn't eat, doesn't do anything else until she dies. She dances herself to death. Okay? And she's not the only one. It is estimated that the quote-unquote plague spread to roughly 400 people who danced uncontrollably to the point of exhaustion, heart attack, or stroke. 400 people. Now, local physicians at the time, to their credit, they didn't chalk it up to like demons or anything like that. They were like, oh, there's a medical reason for why this is happening. And the medical reason that they determined was it was because of overheated blood. Okay? So probably the case, you know. I think they nailed it 500 years ago. And their solution, this is so crazy, dude. Their solution was to build a stage and hire musicians to keep them dancing so they could work it out. That would somehow like they lean into it, and in doing this, it'll cool down your overheated blood by dancing more. But that only made the death tolls rise.
Wow.
Okay.
How many was the total?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know how many the total was, but 400 people were accounted to have danced. I don't know how many of them died. All right. Okay. Now let's get to what modern historians believe happened. Actually, before we get there, I want to hear what do you think happened, Andy?
The spirit moved them.
The spirit moved them? Like this woman just woke up one morning and was just like...
She's like, you know what? I'm vibing right now. I'm free. Yeah. I am vibing right now. I need to get this out of me.
Did she hear music? Did she hear music, or did she just like...
It was like, give me a beat.
Maybe she dropped something and the way it hit the ground, like boom, da-dum, boom.
And she was like, ooh. She was like, ooh, wait a minute. And then outside I go.
The door. Mm-hmm. And I feel like she went out there and then she just started like dancing and pointing at people, you know, to get them to join in.
And they were like, how can you not? Like,
yeah.
She shamed them too, I bet. She was like, if you don't dance, you're just going to let me dance to death.
Yeah.
This to death.
Dude, I want to know what this dance looked like, you know? Like, that's my biggest question in all of this is not like what caused it. It's like what were the moves? What were the dance moves, you know?
1500s dance moves.
I feel like it's just a lot of
imagine it's like
yeah, just like slowly, just like
yeah.
Then when you think about like getting exhausted from that, I don't know. That's a lot. I mean,
I feel like it was like
crumping.
I don't know. I feel like maybe it was more close to like yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like more like
you had to guess. Put on your historian glasses.
Like more of a compression dance, like more squatting was involved.
Yeah, that would burn out the legs faster. You know, you get to exhaustion faster for sure. And I wonder, like, if you die from exhaustion dancing,
Yeah.
like at some point you're not going to be on your feet anymore. Like to get to the point, you're going to be so exhausted that you're not going to be on your feet anymore. So you're probably going to be on the ground, still dancing.
Just writhing.
Yeah, dude. Just like
how do you even dance on the ground?
Worm. Well, you can do the worm.
Well, that's a good point.
You can do the worm. You can do a lot of breakdancing moves. A lot of like ray gun esque dance moves.
Yeah. Yep.
So, all right. Okay. So now some historians suggest that the dancers ingested ergot. Do you know what ergot is? So it's a mold that grows on damp rye and contains psychoactive chemicals similar to LSD, causing hallucinations and spasms.
Yeah.
Right. I don't buy that. And then there's another theory. Most modern experts believe it was a case of mass hysteria triggered by extreme stress, famine, and disease prevalent in the region at the time. Okay. Mass hysteria, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like mass hysteria, like a bunch of people freaking out, sure, but like going out in the street and dancing, like 400 people so hysterical that the only thing they can do is go out into the street and dance till it literally kills them. Come on, let's get real. You know what I mean? Yeah, get real. I think a much more realistic explanation or theory is the vibe theory. It was just an infectious vibe.
Yeah. I'm trying to think too, like what's going on in Strasbourg
in 1518? Maybe it was because they were bored.
Like you said cobblestone streets, and like I don't think so, dude. I think they were dirt roads.
You don't think they were putting stones on ground for walking?
Nah, dude. I think it was a soupy road of like what I can only imagine is just very muddy, stinky roads full of just like
disease,
excrement. Yeah, like and like her family didn't come out and dance with her.
There's no mention of the family, which is weird, right? Like, there's just,
God, we got to get down to the bottom of this one.
And you know what? The frustrating part is, I have 5 bullet points here, and I'm sure this is like as extensive as research as you could possibly do into this case. If it's not on this,
you wouldn't do any less.
That's precisely right. So this is literally all we know about the case. So frustrating. But yeah,
we're gonna need to whiteboard it.
Yeah, or blackboard it. You know, I got a blackboard right here.
Get your chalk out.
Get my chalk out. But we don't have time for that. I want to ask you a question now about. Do you have sensory problems? Welcome back. What do you got there?
Athletic. One of the most delicious, refreshing brews of this century and last century.
That ain't the truth.
So refreshing.
Yeah, it is. I can almost taste it from this side of me. I'm salivating because I'm all out. I drank 2 in like 5 minutes because that's how easy they go down. And guess what? I'm clear-headed. That's the best part. I am.
Here's the thing.
Lucid.
They're so good you could drink hundreds of them.
And you could go run a marathon.
True. I have one thing to say before you ask your question. It's 7:47 p.m.
Oh, you want to shut down and then chat off air?
I think it's time to shut down.
All right. Andy and Eric.
About an hour in.
Signing off here from WTT. Was that today? Which so far we've been living up to the name because we've gotten the time and day wrong, I think, on every time we've tried to sit down and chat
every
with
account.
each other. True to the name, therefore it's okay. We've built in an excuse to the podcast, but it's been a real pleasure chatting with you. We'll see you next time.
Is that your
And
radio voice?
you can find you can find us on all streaming channels. So this you can find us here on YouTube, here on Spotify, here on Apple Music, here on Vine, here on MySpace, wherever it is you listening, you can find us. Until next time. Was that today?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right. We stop the recording.
Okay.